Hey guys, how you doing in the back?
I'm hungover, it's your fault.
How many beers did you drink last night?
Professional diver Ken Wilson and his employer and close friend Kathy Gorgans run a small tourist resort on the Mexican island of Cozumel.
Hungover as well, aren't you?
We sell fun. You're taking people to do something they love every day. And that's when people are happy. And that's the best time to be around those people is when they're happy.
Ken, tell them about your first dive.
Oh, Kathy, yeah. Well, I used to tend bar in Bon Terre.
For Ken, this was a chance to quit his job in construction, to do what he loves best, scuba diving.
It's probably one of the most peaceful things you could do. You're totally weightless. It's almost a form of meditation.
We're about to take you diving, Ken, but you're wearing your wetsuit on back to front.
Ken is like, I would say, something that you find like a rock and you think, oh, this is pretty, I'm gonna keep it. And then you shine it up and you find out he's a gem.
Today, they're taking 2 of their customers to see the ancient Mayan ruins on the island.
All right, let's check it out. Here we go.
It's the last day of the holiday, and tomorrow they all return to the US.
Hold on.
We had 6 lovely days of diving. On the 7th day, we decided we'll walk around the ruins, work up an appetite, go have breakfast.
Hey, you want a guide? No, no tour gracias. But I'm a good guide. No tour gracias. I'm the best guide ever.
The Mayan ruins are all that remains of a lost civilization that lived on the island over 1,000 years ago.
You just felt like you were in a sauna. It was so hot and so humid, and it was just hard to breathe. And then the mosquitoes were just so bad.
Well, this certainly isn't the one in the picture.
Collapsed and overgrown, the ruins are a far cry from the magnificent Mayan structures Ken had imagined.
Let's go a little further and see what we can find.
You know what? You guys go ahead. I'll wait for you here.
You sure you'll be okay?
Ken, I'll be fine.
We began to work our way out through the ruins, and of course now it's about 11 o'clock and the heat's really building up.
Look, Ken, I'm sorry, I'm going back.
It's not long before the other 2 have also had enough of the oppressive heat.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Me neither.
I said, well, I'm going to walk on about another 15 minutes. And I probably should have stayed with them,
Located in the center of the island, the ruins are surrounded by hundreds of kilometers of thick, impenetrable jungle.
At that time, there wasn't any signs, there wasn't any markers, and it was pretty grown up.
Ken is determined to find the ruin pictured on his ticket receipt. But he's having no luck, so he decides to head back.
I need to get back. Catherine's hot. She needs to leave. We need to go back and get something to drink.
But it's not as easy as he thinks. All the paths look the same.
So I crossed yet another intersection, then another intersection. It became a little confusing about which fork of this I was taking, so I began to explore off this branch, and I would come to the next intersection, and this is not familiar.
The network of Mayan pathways that centuries ago linked one building to the next is now an overgrown maze. And Ken is lost in the middle of it.
I'm sorry, guys. This is really unlike Ken.
Half hour goes by, 45 minutes go by. Now my intuition's kicking in. It's going, there's something wrong. Ken's not like this. This is out of his character.
The sun's directly overhead. I have no sense of direction, what's east, west, north, south. And now I'm really starting to get charged up. I need to rely on a little bit of adrenaline to get me where I need to go. And at that point, that was a state of panic.
Then all of a a sudden, an hour goes by, an hour and a half, and I said, that's it. There's something wrong here.
Kathy!
We don't hear him. So I said, let's go back to the entrance. Maybe he's waiting for us back there.
What was that?
Then I heard this real faint call.
That's Ken. That's gotta be him. Ken! Ken, we're over here!
Kathy!
And I said, you guys hear that? And they said, no, what? And I said, just listen. Let's just sit here for a minute. Just listen. So we all listened. And then all of a sudden we heard that call. I said, see, did you hear that? Yeah, I did. Call back. I know that's Ken. He's lost.
I heard him call back.
Thinking he can make out the direction of Kathy's voice, Ken makes a fatal error.
And made the decision to leave the paths and go straight through the jungle to where I heard the noise.
Ken thinks he's heading straight for Kathy, but he's been deceived. The thick jungle has distorted her screams, and every step he takes is leading him away from her and deeper into Cozumel's dark heart.
Kathy!
Kathy can no longer hear Ken's cries.
And now I'm really concerned. He's lost. He's going further away.
So whenever I didn't hear a response from the last call, it really gave a sort of sinking feeling.
Kathy!
He's hopelessly lost in one of the deadliest environments on Earth. In just 3 hours, it will be dark, and Ken will have to confront the terrors of the jungle at night. He's been missing for over 6 hours, and his friend Kathy is increasingly concerned.
I asked some of the tour guys there, I said, can you help us? You know, the guy is lost in there, and he didn't come out with us, and I'm really concerned he can't find his way out.
Panic drives Ken forward, but he has no idea where he's going.
I can still get out of here. Every minute I'm thinking I can still get out of here.
But pushing through the dense forest growth is draining his strength.
It really began to take a toll on me physically. The brush is so thick, you can never walk in a straight line for more than 10 or 15 feet. So I really have no sense of direction right now. I need to hurry up and get back, push harder, push harder. Would run into vines, which would tear up my ankles, and I would end up falling down again.
It's 4 p.m. In just 2 hours, the jungle will be plunged into darkness.
I might have covered 2 miles in that first burst of energy, but now I'm going really slow. Sun's starting to set in, it's getting darker and darker.
Desperate to escape the jungle before nightfall, Ken pushes himself harder.
I had caught my leg in a hole, and I thought, well, I've almost broken my leg just now. If I break my leg, I can't walk out of here. And I decided to make my camp here for the night.
Ken now faces a terrifying night alone in the jungle. A fire is all that stands between him and unseen predators.
It was a little bit of an eerie feeling because I'm thinking there could be someone out there watching me.
All around him, the jungle is coming alive.
I could hear some kind of animal and occasional leaf rustling. I had a degree of paranoia, and there was no way I was going to be able to sleep in that situation.
Scared and alone, Ken's thoughts turned to his friend, Kathy.
Of course, in the back of my mind, I knew the whole time that I'm there that Catherine is going to be at the forefront of somebody looking for me.
Ken is desperately trying to keep his body together. But after 2 weeks alone in the jungle, he's slowly losing his mind.
I'm calling room service, I'm filling up the bathtub, and from there on, I don't care what happens, but that's going to be my fantasy.
Just leave it on the table.
He's increasingly drifting off into a dream world, from which he might never wake up.
It was just so many weird things that, and I'm beginning to wonder if it's something within my own mind that is keeping me here.
After 15 days of mental torture, it's all Ken can do just to stay alive.
My body needed water so bad, it could never think anything but quenching my thirst. It's a very strange feeling, this stress from not being able to drink, not being able to eat, not being able to find your way out.
Ken no longer worries about being rescued. Instead, he spends his time catching flies that bite him and feeding them to ants.
And from the stress, there was some sort of relief by watching ants eat these flies. It was a revenge.
But, like the flies, Ken is now part of the jungle's food chain, and his own dying body will soon be its next meal.
The vultures I began to see 2 or 3, then there was 4 or 5, the next day there might have been 5 or 6. I began to use the vultures as a way to try to signal somebody. And I would kind of lay down and twitch a little bit to act like I was something that was dying to try to get the vulture's attention, to get them attracted to, and that was a way to signal somebody by air, because I had no other means to do so. But it just didn't work out like that. It was another disappointment. I realized I was going to die there.
Entire days pass by. Instead of trying to find a way out of the jungle, Ken's becoming part of it.
Now my clothes are nothing but shreds. I haven't shaved in 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I'm matted with dirt. I have no shoelaces.
Ken is still only alive thanks to occasional mouthfuls of stagnant water. He's physically and mentally broken.
I could already be dead, and I don't know it. What if I died 3 days ago and My spirit is here wandering around, and this is my destiny of eternity, is to wander around in this jungle. You begin to think, I'll never get out of here.
After 18 days missing, even Ken's friend Kathy is starting to doubt he can still be alive.
I'm really to the point, like, you know, this is getting hopeless. I mean, it hurts so bad to think that this guy could possibly die.
I just laid down and I dozed off a little bit. In a few minutes, I woke up and there was a woman standing there holding a baby. Some people say.
And with his loyal friend Cashew, Benedict makes it away from danger.
My first thought was relief. Then I had this terrible, dawning realization that I wasn't safe at all. I was surrounded by forest. It was the middle of the night, and I was very, very alone.
Without his guides, Benedict is now stranded in over 2 million square miles of rainforest, with no one to show him the route out.
I really was not at the end of a nightmare, but at the beginning of one.
Cashew. Let's get out of here, boy.
I paddled upriver for maybe an hour, and I thought, I'll just calm down, I'll just pull into the side. Made a little camp and thought, I've got to come to terms with this new situation. And the situation was, my childhood dreams were over. And I felt, I've got to get out of here, got to get out of here. And there was blood pounding through my head. I did not know what was out there in the forest. And I didn't know myself, really. I didn't know whether I had it in me to survive. As the first light came up, I could see this forest, absolutely immense, and there I was in the middle of it, absolutely alone. It was terrifying that first morning. But after a little while, I thought, no, come on, pull yourself together. It's the first day. So I began looking at my supplies, trying to work out whether I had enough to get me out of the forest.
Good boy.
And by Benedict's estimations, he has enough rice, sugar, and dried meat to last him approximately 2 weeks. And he has a mosquito net, a machete, and a survival kit. All the basics he needs to stay alive.
If I wanted to see my mum and dad again, I was going to have to take a chance on finding a trail out of the forest, and that's the option that seemed to be the only sensible one.
But Benedict knows that searching for a route out of the forest means heading off into completely uncharted waters.
I was actually going into the interior. I was heading upriver. So for the moment, until I found that trail, I was heading into oblivion. As I paddled away upstream, I was feeling more and more hopeful. Then, suddenly, there were rapids. And I remember thinking, come on, Benedict, pull yourself together. You've got to get out of here. Spent a lot of time dragging the canoe through the rapids. was immensely hard work. It just seemed relentless that I was just fighting all the time this river.
After 3 days on the river, fighting countless sets of rapids, the harsh reality is sinking in for Benedict. He's heading deeper and deeper into the forest, and there is still no sign of the trail.
By the third day, all my early enthusiasm had drained away. I kept on thinking, how many rapids are there? They weren't marked on any map. It just seemed relentless. Physically, I felt a wreck. My hands were in ribbons and blisters all over the place, burns from this rope. The big question mark was how long I could keep on going, and it wasn't that I was running out of food, I was just running out of belief in myself.
By mid-afternoon, it seems Benedict and Cashew have cleared the worst of the rapids. They can now continue to search for a way out of the forest.
I remember starting to paddle my way into the clear water, but I hadn't quite got far enough. Suddenly I found the situation out of control. I started going backwards. It became absolutely terrifying. I realized that I was fighting for my survival. I had to keep this canoe upright. But then, wham! The canoe shattered with the impact. Everything now ended up in the water. The dog, the supplies, and me. It was a moment of absolute terror as I realized not only was I losing my possessions, but actually I was having to fight for my life. I was gagging on the water, trying to get my breath. Finally got some purchase and waded my way towards the riverbank. I remember just trying to take in the situation, and the situation was that I'd lost virtually everything I needed in order to survive, and lost my companionship, Cashew, the dog. Yeah, it was a sad moment just because he was my friend, my companionship. He was everything to me.
And as Benedict sits on the riverbank, he realizes that along with Cashew, his hopes of survival are slowly drifting away.
First thing that struck me was I didn't have any food. Then I realized I didn't have a hammock, didn't have my mosquito net. There were so many worries going through my head. Would I end up starving to death? Would I die slowly of malaria? It was difficult to imagine how I was going to end up, but whatever way, it didn't look likely that I'd ever see my family again.
Benedict knows that no one will be looking for him, because his expedition is not due to finish for at least 3 months. And with no food or medical supplies, he'll be lucky to survive a week.
The situation was beautifully clear in a way. If I stayed where I was, I thought I would just die. I thought I've just got to get out of this place. I thought, what have I got to get me out of the forest? There was an old rucksack. There was a water bottle, a machete, but above all, my survival kit. Fishing hooks, fishing line, distress flares, spare compass. So key, simple things. I got out my little notebook and made a little map. Anything I can remember, I put onto this map.
Benedict realizes that the river is no longer a viable route, and the only possible way out is to walk directly into the jungle and attempt to hike out on foot.
So I drew a little dotted line, and that would be my route out of the forest. And it was a huge, huge moment as I walked away from the sunlight into the unknown.
And Benedict heads into one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, the Amazon rainforest.
The forest that I saw seemed a very different forest from one I'd remembered. Very, very thick, difficult to get through. And so I thought, I've got to keep absolutely clear about what I'm meant to be doing.
Benedict realizes that traversing this jungle will be a monumental task, so he'll have to use every last scrap of experience he has, if he is to make it through here alive.
And I reckon I walked absolutely straight, maybe 100 miles. That would take me to the outside world. So I thought, I'm going to count every single pace. When I got to 100 paces, I made a little notch in a stick. And that way, I'd know that I was nearer help.
For hours, Benedict fights his way through the jungle. But as night falls, he can go no.
When I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did get worse. I lay on the forest floor, racked by pain. My liver, my kidneys were being attacked. I was fighting just to keep myself sane.
Benedict's malaria has now reached the final and fatal stage. The parasites are aggressively multiplying and destroying his vital organs, causing his body to collapse. Within 24 hours, he will experience first coma, then death.
This was the moment when it could all end very, very quickly. I had this rising sense of panic that I had to get out of the forest. I had to do whatever it took. Whatever happened, I had to keep moving. Keep on putting one foot in front of the other. I kept on going, making pitiful progress, and sometimes no progress at all. I couldn't even think straight. I couldn't even see my compass. At that moment, I suddenly thought, well, I'm just never going to get out of here. It was just too big to fight, and I was losing that fight.
Benedict simply cannot go on. He's just too weak, too ravaged by disease.
It was a terribly lonely moment, thinking this is the end. suddenly, amongst all this despair, this confusion, this feeling of being trapped in this prison, a sight that will always stay with me. I saw this cut branch. The cut itself was blackened, so it had been cut some time ago, but had been cut by a human. I realised there was actually quite a few of these branches. This was actually the edge of the outside world. I started investigating, and there was a trail. And then the extraordinary thing of just seeing daylight, and it's still emotional to me, just this reconnection with the outside world.